to the Metal Command Podcast.
Greetings and welcome back to another edition of the Metal Command Podcast. Tony here with you. Really excited, of course, to be here. And as always, if you do want to support this program, by all means, hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. Hit that little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. And if you are following me on any other form of social media, by all means, give me a like and a follow there. Today's show features an interview with Udo Dirkschneider and his son, Sven Dirkschneider, who is the drummer in Udo's band. We talk about the re-recorded version of the classic Accept album called Balls to the Wall. Their version of it is called Balls to the Wall Reloaded. It's a re-recorded version of that album and features a lot of really great guest singers. We talk about a lot of those singers. We talk about Udo and his band, the relationship him and his son have, and of course playing music together, and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. Here you go. This is the interview with myself, Udo Dirkschneider, and his son, Sven Dirkschneider. Enjoy. Welcome, everybody, to the Metal Command Podcast. Tony here with you. I am joined by Udo Dirkschneider and his son, Sven, and we're going to talk about the re-recorded version of Balls to the Wall called Balls to the Wall Reloaded, which is a pretty interesting re-recording, much different than what most bands have probably ever done when re-recording a record. And talk about it. You got a lot of cool guest singers on it, and which is a much different approach to re-recording a record. So let's talk about your new re-recorded version of Balls to the Wall.
Yeah, I mean, it was not really planned, but it was happened, when we were doing some festival stuff. So a lot of singers came up and said, what you are doing for the 40th anniversary of Balls to the Wall. I would love to sing a song of this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so, and then the idea came up, normally it was not planned to re-record the Balls to the Wall album, but with guest singers, I think in the end it works. So I'm happy that we did it.
Yeah, I think we really love the idea of having different vocalists on each song with different characters and totally different approaches of singing, which made it very interesting for us. And then as soon as we had like a picture together on who we could feature, we already saw a picture coming together. So we already had good ideas for certain songs where we could imagine certain singers doing it. Then it was, of course, pretty difficult to plan the whole thing because everyone has schedules and they're on tour and they do media and they do videos. And of course, everyone has a private life as well. So that took some time to get everything going, and the result is great. I love it.
You had some interesting choices for vocalists too, because some of the singers, I think, Udo, sound so much different than you do, and it was interesting to hear you sing these songs with them, like listening to Doro, sing a song. Michael Kiske, who's a completely different singer than you, singing on a track, and what was it like to record with people like that who are just they have a much different voice, but somehow it fit, because when I listen to some of these, there's guys on there like Mil Petroza and people like that where you're like, okay, I could see them really doing a great Accept cover, but again, you got you have Biff on there, you have Kiske, Doro. I mean, you had a really interesting group of people, and what was it about the specific singers on this album that made you pick them for this?
I think the most important thing was that they put their own character on the songs, and also we was not like that. We said, okay, you have to sing this line and this line and this line. The whole thing was we said, okay, please sing the whole song, and then we can see which parts are fit together with my voice, So, and I think that was the best way to do it. And and also, the good thing was also that all the guest singers are really into that, not like, okay, come on, I sing that and that's it, thank you very much and bye-bye. No, I mean, they were really in it and they loved to do this, and that was also another good thing.
Yeah, I thought it was great. So like a lot of these, you look at the roster of people. I mean, some of these people probably were listening to you back in the day. You probably grew up listening to Accept, and you probably played shows with a lot of them. I'm sure you've played a lot with Saxon over the years. And,
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah, and I just think it was great with the selection of people singing on this, and Udo, you go back to the days when you were in Accept in Balls to the Wall. I could be wrong. Is probably one of, if not the biggest album in the United States.
Yes, definitely.
What was it like? When that album came out. Accept was probably not as well known, but then that album comes out. For you as a musician, and back in those days, what was that like? Because breaking into the U.S. market is not an easy thing to do.
Oh no, definitely not. I mean,
No.
I think we were very lucky. When the album came out in America, that was also MTV was brand new. And then we were lucky that they put the Ball to the Wall video on MTV. That was the first perfect thing.
Yeah.
And then overnight we had 120 radio stations. They were playing Ball to the Wall. And then we started with Kids touring in America. I mean, that was a perfect beginning for us in America, definitely. And then in a way we were nearly living in America for 3 years.
Yeah.
And that was. I think you can say also we were very lucky at this time that things happened like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always tough. I mean, people, Scorpions kind of broke through in the U.S. about the same time, but people don't realize that it takes a lot for a band like yourself from Germany, for example. It's just a lot. It's always seems to be a lot harder to kind of get any recognition here, and you guys were able to do that. And of course, bands always get backlash for oh my god, how can you re-record this? Have you received any of that, or was the different approach really something that you didn't have any of that kind of backlash or people saying you shouldn't have done this and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, what I said, we were very lucky with America. Already with the Balls in Europe, we did a huge tour and it was really successful already,
Mm-hmm.
And then also the American, when we had this American thing going on, also now we became a worldwide success, and also in Europe, they said, "Whoa, you're a German band." And it's the same like the Scorpions. There was also not really, they was known in Germany, but more than in France and Japan and whatever, And also they came to America. It was nearly the same story, And then the people say, "Wow, we have an international band, Wow, that's German band. Wow, we are proud of it." And that's things happened like this.
And in regards to your second question, of course. There are people who say you can't touch the holy cow, and why the fuck do you? Again?
Yeah.
You always have people who, but all I can say is, like, look, you have a 72-year-old artist who is still putting out products, working his ass off.
Yeah.
So just be proud of that, and enjoy what you can listen to. And I think with the approach of having different vocalists on each song, of course, if you're not a fan of Doro, then you won't like Winter Dreams. If you're not a fan of Biff, you won't like London Leather Boys, obviously. But maybe you like Dee Snider and you think that Losers and Winners is a really cool version of him, So of course, there are people who like to talk about that this is very unnecessary and blah blah blah. But I can't really share the critics, because Udo is so into putting out new music and interesting projects as well. We are not only putting out UDO records. He did a cover album and whatnot. So. I would just say be proud of the artist that you admire for so long. That's the best thing that can happen.
You always have people that criticize something, If also when you put out a new album, UDO album or whatever, it's always like this. I mean, I do this now for 50 years, and always these things are coming up, But so far with the Ball to the Wall Reloaded album,
Yeah.
I mean, I did already, I don't know how many interviews, and all the journalists are really like, wow, it's great. And of course, you have something going on Facebook or Instagram and say, yeah, okay, or maybe I don't like this and this. But it's just, let's say, 90% like the whole thing, and 10% maybe said, yeah, why you do this, So, but anyway, I mean, I'm really happy that we did it. And I think it's also a fresh thing, It's also, on one hand, we didn't change anything arranging wise, but it's now a modern touch on this album. And also, we have also some younger musicians like Niels Molin and Ivy Erickson, Danko Jones, and all that stuff. That also maybe people, they listen to this now. And then they say, "Whoa! I never heard something about the Ball to the Wall album." It's just like. So also maybe we reach maybe some new or younger people. I mean, I think it's winning both sides. We are winning, they are winning, and so here we go.
Yeah, I think I really liked it, and I think that. Most bands many times will just re-record the record. I think this is more like celebrating the record, and I have to imagine that a lot of these people that sang, I know a few of them, definitely for sure grew up listening to you. So now they get to play. So for a lot of the singers, it had to be a lot of fun because a lot of them either were contemporaries of yours. People that were doing music around the time when, you were in Accept and Accept was kind of at their height in the US, like Dee Snider, for example, or a guy like Biff, who's been, I think Biff is the same age as you, still putting music out. So I think if you're going to celebrate a record and you're going to re-record it, this is the way to do it. And even singers that I'm really not as into, I think sound great on this album, so it's I thought you had a great approach to this because it's not your typical re-recording, right?
That was the fun thing about it. When we were in touch with the people, it went from Joachim of Sabaton, who's a huge Accept fan, and he was very honored and had fun doing it, to Niels Molin from Amaranth, who's a younger person, and he told us, wow, I'm so honored that you asked me, and Head Over Heels is one of my favorite songs out there, so that was the cool thing. Or Michael Kiska, I mean, he was saying the same, losing more than you've ever had, has been there since his youth, and you can hear that on that record. That's so cool about it. It's not that we just asked them, hey, can you sing this line and this line? No, they did the whole song and had lots of fun doing it.
Yeah, and you can hear that in the performances on the singing performances on this album. And I thought the way that it worked so well is for the people that can't really, their singing voice is different from Udo's, from yours. You were still able to make that work on this songs. And
yeah,
I mean, it's not, because when I saw I remember before this came out, I saw the list of singers and I'm like, man, there's people on here. Like I could see Tim Ripper Owens doing a great sounding Accept cover. But when I saw Michael Kiske and I saw Doro and I saw Biff, I'm like, I got to hear what this sounds like. And finally, when I did a review of the record, I even said, probably half the time I probably really like the re-recording of an album and half the time I don't. And it clearly, after probably a couple songs and listening to this, just the fact that you have so many different people on this, and it's kind of like, it almost felt like celebrating the album in a sense. I thought your approach was great to this, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
the thing is, especially with If, it sounds like a Saxon version. It could be a Saxon song.
Right, yeah, exactly. I was thinking that.
Yeah, when we got it back and we listened to that the first time, we just sat down and said, wow, that could be a Saxon song.
But
fascinating.
it's the same with Losing More You Ever Had. If you listen to the whole song, what Michael Kiske was singing, I mean, it can be also a Halloween song, and that was really interesting. But I mean, also for me personally, I mean, I was, you can say, nervous when we started doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
after, I don't know, 40 years, can I hit the notes, the high notes and all that stuff? But in the end, it works. So I was also like, okay, here we go. Still, you can do this. So, I mean, I'm fine with this.
Absolutely. So, we talked about this album being 40 years old, and you've been doing this for 50 years. Did you think you would be doing this for 50 years? Like what keeps you going in doing this? And there's a lot of, like we brought up Biff. I think he's the same age as you. What motivates you to keep going?
I mean, I think it's like I like to make music. I like to be creative, working on new albums. And a very important thing is for me that I still have fun to do this. This is, I think, the most important thing. If I got the feeling, oh, come on, or another tour, or come on, now a new album. If I got this feeling, then definitely I will retire. But this has not happened. I mean, we have so many things going on at the moment for us. I mean, I think we are busy until 2027 or whatever, and stuff like that already. And I mean, I'm fine. I feel healthy. Everything works. So here we go.
That's just funny the way you put that. Everything works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, when you're a musician that has been around as long as you have, it's almost like the guys that are still doing this, 30, 40, 50 years, it's like a drug to them. Like they can't stop, and it's like whether, and I've noticed with you, whether you were in front of a crowd of 50,000 people or 200 or 300, depending on where you're playing at, it's like you still have that intensity to keep going. And I think to do this as long as you have at a high level, I think is honestly pretty, it's something for a lot of people to admire in a sense, because you have defied the odds, as they say.
And it's a big motivation as well. I can tell you that. I mean, if like everyone from the band is looking at him every night performing, and we are not a band who plays 2 shows and then we have 2 days off. We play 5 shows in a row. And fly from A to B overnight, and it's very, very fascinating and motivating at the same time to see him going. And it's just good for yourself to see, look, that's what I should do. That's how you do it,
Yeah.
So that is really, really cool.
Sven, how did you start getting into music? I mean, what was what age did you really get into what your dad was doing? And did you ever think you'd be playing in a band with him? All these years later?
No, not at all. No, I mean, I started early. I started playing drums at the age of 4. So drums were there my whole life, but I had I would say, like a very regular approach to it. I were at a music school, and then I had a private teacher, and then I went into like a church choir and played with a conductor. And then pretty early, I think I was maybe 11 or 12, I formed my first own band, which was a cover band originally, and we listened to all that, I don't know, pop punk stuff from the States, Blink-182, The Offspring, Sum 41, that kind of stuff. And that was the music I grew up to. And then we wanted to write our own music, and that's what we did. And then we got together with Stefan Kaufmann, and he produced our first EP. But you know how it is, like as we grew up and everyone had to orientate himself in life, what will I do as a job or whatever, or study or whatnot? Things became more complicated, and that's when we had to stop the band, because a lot of parents from the musicians that I worked with, or friends that I had back in the day, they were not very happy with the approach that I had, because I took it serious and I wanted to do stuff. And they said, no, you can't rehearse every day a week. You have to do your homework and stuff, So I was sort of like on a very serious approach. And of course, my parents told me, you have to do something, like we want you to do something official, because like you never know where the path with music would take you to. But as I did my apprenticeship, I already started working with bands as a technician and stuff. And I was on tour with Saxon, and I was on tour with my dad at that time already. And then I just really got into that type of music as well. That's when I really discovered the classic heavy metal. Of course, I knew and know what my dad was doing for all these years, and they were songs that I liked, but I was not a classic heavy metal fan right from the start. And so I mean, things developed, and in 2014 I was on tour with Saxon, and my dad came for a visit in Berlin. I think we were doing sound check, and they were talking, Biff and Udo, and my dad told him, like, yeah, I have to look for a new drummer and blah blah blah. And Biff told him, look, there's your new drummer, ask him, why not, he can do it. And at the same time, Biff called me because Nigel, we had to stop the tour because he got sick, and had to undergo an operation, and then they rescheduled shows for February 2015. So at the time my dad asked me, I also had the request of playing 5 shows with Saxon in the UK. So I had like a set list of, I don't know, 50 plus songs that I had to learn. That's why it took, I think I took 14 days to decide if I want to do it or not, because I knew if you join the band now, if you go into UDO and you start playing drums with them, there's pretty much no way back. You know, if that's your decision now, then this is got to be it. And I took it serious, and here I am. It's 10 years now. Which is crazy.
Yeah. So Sven, what is your favorite album that your dad sang on? Gotta pick.
That's probably
probably not an expected question. I'm just curious.
I must say that still Metal Heart was a big part of my childhood.
Okay.
And Metal Heart still is my favorite accept song. When it comes to UDO, there are certain albums where I really like it, but I think Animal House, now listening to it, is very, very fantastic, I think.
That's probably my favorite one right there. Actually, you just named the one that I like the best as well. It's interesting, because you start seeing now kids of people that basically created this genre, really helped, like your dad is one of the people that helped form this whole genre of music, and now you're seeing kids, relatives, all playing this music. It's pretty, it's fascinating to see, and you're doing a really great job of it. I always think of like Kai Hansen from Halloween. His son has a band. I think of all of these musicians now that really helped carve out this music, say in the 80s, and you're seeing a lot of their kids or their relatives, and they're getting into it. But it's really cool to see that you and your dad, you get to spend time together. I mean, you get to spend time with your dad every day, because
I mean, that's the other side of things. I mean, pretty obviously my dad was not at home that much when I was born,
right?
And he was on tour, so for us it's a really, really cool thing to spend time together, and we see each other more friends when we go on tour, and at the same time we are doing business together, and we are creating music together. So there's so much that we now spend together as bandmates, friends, and whatnot. So it's really, really cool to catch up on time that we didn't have when I was younger, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Some of the interesting part too is obviously a lot of things have changed over the last 10 years, and it's been very difficult since the whole COVID thing for bands to really navigate around things like touring costs or even availability of equipment. And how have you both been able to navigate this and get through a lot of the difficulties, when it comes to, cost of touring, being able to get gigs? Has it been difficult for you, or, because, Udo, you've had a name for a long time, maybe it's not as difficult for you, but just out of curiosity, how have you had to navigate through that?
Yeah, I think, of course, in a way, I'm lucky. We can still tour worldwide. And of course, the costs are exploding since, I don't know, the last 4 or 5 years, and especially for younger bands, I think it's not so easy anymore, to go on tour. I do this for so long, and of course, I have a huge catalog. So that means, in a way, I don't have this problem as a new band, money-wise also.
Right.
We are, in a way, for us, it's a little bit easier than for a young band, It's, I think, very difficult to survive in this business now, It's also like... how in the 80s you was selling a lot of records, so you can make a living of your publishing stuff like that. And now selling CDs, if you are really already on the high point, is if you are selling already 30,000 or 40,000 copies, where it's like, wow. And they make the money on tour and merchandising, That's a thing where you can make money as a new band. But I think we are lucky in a way, Of course, I'm long enough in this business, and for us, it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just tried to stay busy during COVID. That was the time when we had time to write new music and work on new stuff. And but as my dad said, and we are in a position as a band where we are lucky enough to. We had only to reschedule things. We had to shift plans, basically.
Yeah.
But for a band that came up right before COVID, that's absolutely a killing point for sure, because you have to stay, on the road the whole time to being able to even, if you want to make a living out of it, then this is really, really complicated nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would 100% agree. And, it's like, I think too, Udo, being around for as long as you have been, you've experienced so much. It's a lot easier to make decisions because you have a lot of experience having to do that. Even before COVID, the music business, even go back for 40 years, is difficult. So, you still have a lot of things. If you had to give advice to a new band, like, what is the, like, one of the things you would tell them that they should do?
First of all, I say believe in what you're doing. That's also a very important thing,
Mm-hmm.
And then also you, in a way, you need now in this with all this downloading and with social media stuff, you need some concept to do. I think that you stick out of some bands, I think it's not easy, but for me, it's still, that was my thing to say, okay, I believe what I'm doing and I want to do it, Okay, it's, I was lucky, I met the right people at the right time. You need also luck, to do something. I know a lot of bands during my whole career, they were really, really good, and I thought, wow, they're getting definitely big, and after, I don't know, 1 year, you hear nothing of them anymore. It is sometimes happen. I was lucky, I met the right people at the right time, and this is the only advice I can give: believe what you are doing, and that's the thing.
Yeah. I would say too that the one thing that I've always noticed about you over the years is that no matter how big, your band may have gotten, you always worked very hard at what you are doing. And you never, because I think what happens and I see this a lot, some bands will think, okay, I have a record deal. I have a publicist. They think it's like this golden ticket to where they don't have to work anymore. But, again, when you see guys like yourself, or I see a lot of the people that, your contemporaries and people that, other bands that came out of, your era, you all still work very hard at what you are doing. You're not sitting back not doing anything. You're doing interviews, you're going out and playing shows, and you're grinding out like you did, 40, 50 years ago. And I think that people I think that's that's a big reason why you are still where you are, is that you put the work in to do it.
Yeah, maybe sometimes, some bands, they think already what you said, having a record deal and maybe doing some shows, and they're already rock stars, Yeah, I don't think so. It's a lot of work, to do something in this business and keep going, and that means, keep going, working. So, I mean, for one example is like, I mean, yeah, we was putting America for a long time away, like I said, maybe we are coming, maybe not. But now, I mean, we try to get into the market again in America, and I tell you, this is not so easy. This is really hard work, but we will see. I mean, I believe in that, and it will be also happen in America again. I believe in that.
Yeah, America's always difficult because of how big it is. And you've toured over here. You get it. You have most of your shows on the East Coast, Midwest. Then you got to travel all the way across the country where nothing exists. Maybe you play one show and then you go to the West Coast. And it's a difficult thing. And it's always been difficult for German heavy metal bands to even come here. I mean, you really have to make an investment. And play a lot to be able to even be seen. Like for example, if I look at your history, you guys had, I think, a few albums out before Balls to the Wall to really break it here. If you look at the Scorpions had 5 records come out here before they really ended up being really successful. And when I say 5 albums, those 5 albums were, they were 5 records after Uli Roth wasn't in the band, right?
Yes.
So it took 5 albums to really get them to really, some prominence and get known. And I think that, from Germany, for whatever reason, it always feels like it's harder for bands to play audiences here from over there. But it seems like South America, Latin America, Europe. I mean, you guys obviously, you'll play some pretty big shows, but the U.S. does take some investment to get in here.
Yeah, I mean, but you need also some, how you said it, you need some balls also to do this. Playing clubs for maybe 200 people.
Yeah.
I mean, this is. Of course, I can say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I do just South America and Europe and Japan and go to Australia. No, I mean, this is like, I really want to do this, and really want to see how far we can go again in America, and also Canada. But Canada is also, I think, a little bit better for us than America. America is a really hard market, but I believe in that.
It depends on where you are. I mean, it really depends on where you are.
That's true.
It could be somewhere in the middle of America and there are 50 people showing up, and then you go to the West Coast and play there, and you play in front of 300, or Chicago or something like that. It's a very good market for us.
Yeah.
It's so different, but I mean, I think we see it as it's a big challenge to put something like this together, and we were really happy that we did it, because challenges, we take it as opportunities. And as my dad said, I mean, he obviously is not done, and you gotta grab that, because I mean, who is saying that at that age, that he has still power and energy and the will to go into something like that. So it would be a shame if nobody's really trying to achieve something there,
Yeah. Well, the few and the proud are doing it as long as he is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it's like I said, I remember, I always mention Biff because he's in that same, he came up in that same era, man. It's like I go see Saxon and Sven, you obviously know that band very well, man. To see that guy go out there and perform still, 72 years old. I mean, there's guys, the generation, and then you have the generation after Udo that kind of came a little bit after you. Those guys are like in their late 50s, early 60s, and they're still going out. So there's something to be said to be motivated to continue to do what you are doing for as long as you have. And I think that it's something if I'm a band and I'm starting out, man, I want to, I want to last as long as Udo has. Think about it. So, but yeah, it's interesting that we bring up the U.S. market because for a lot of German heavy metal bands, it has taken many of them a long time to be able to come here, and it took a lot of shows, playing in front of small rooms, playing in small rooms to really build a fan base here.
But I think it's also like in America, you cannot say, okay, I come over there for, I don't know, 8 or 10 shows. We did, I don't know, 26 or whatever. And it was not still enough, to do this. I mean, and you have to come then nearly every year and keep going, Otherwise, if you come and then you say, okay, maybe in 3 years I come back again, forget it. This is not working for the American market, in my opinion.
Yeah. I've seen bands do that. They'll think they'll test the waters. Let's play 4 or 5 shows there. You really have to play. If you're really going to tour the U.S., you got to be here at least a month.
Definitely.
And I think to really, some bands can get away with not doing that, but some, I've seen some bands now coming. They'd come play, 6 or 7 shows, turns into 15 shows. Next time they come, they play 20 some shows. But then you start seeing the weird crowds, like you play 500 people and then go to Los Angeles, pay to 1,000 or 2,000. It's just, it's such a weird country, because in Europe it's different. You go to each country and the distances are smaller. You're in a different country, that might get a couple shows. And that's like the big thing for that entire country is that, you go to, France, you play a couple shows there. I mean, you're like huge, like all the people that are like you are going to go to those 2 shows, and it's a shorter distance. And, Germany probably can play to more rooms being from there, but it's a little bit of a different thing in Europe. It's a little more cost effective in Europe compared to the US.
You gotta take the opportunities to play the small venues as well, because if you're going from A to B in America, only want to play the big ones, it's just not affordable, because you'll be on the road for 3 days without earning any money.
Pretty much.
That doesn't work.
No. I got you. Definitely, pretty much. Well, gentlemen, I got to be honest. I had a lot of fun. It was actually really great to have both of you on this show. And to be honest, Udo, big props to you for doing this as long as you have, and being able to endure decades of insanity, playing music. I mean, because it's a lot to deal with, but to have the intensity and the motivation, I have to say to you that, in all seriousness, it's something to admire, that people like yourself and the guys that have been doing this, and guys and gals that have been doing this as long as you have, it's longevity, man. I'll tell you, you're one of the few and the proud, and it's still nice to see you going after all this time.
Well, thank you very much.
Sven, great to be able to talk to you as well. And
likewise, thank you.
And I think you guys did a tremendous job re-recording this record, going through the process of all these singers, getting them on board, getting them to be able to record all of their parts, to get them to sound good on these songs. I think that the amount of work that had to be crazy to be able to do that.
A lot of work, yeah.
Definitely. Okay.
Well, hey, any last words for any fans that will be checking out this interview?
What can I say? I mean, hopefully we also come over with the Boards to the Wall Reloaded 40 years anniversary on do the tour in America. We are working already on this, but first we have to do a 2-month tour here in Europe, and already so many shows are sold out, and and then we're working on America again, and hopefully we can make it.
Absolutely. Can't wait to come back and stay
tuned
for more info soon.
Hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching, and if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video, and if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.